Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. Hi. There was nothing like a little last minute fiddling around, and here we are. Happy Sunday, Jennifer. It's good to see you. Oh my
Good to
gosh.
see you too. Happy Sunday. I must say
Happy Sunday,
you're a
guys.
pretty cool character under pressure. It's like how many things can go wrong
Yeah,
just
it was
10
stupid
seconds
shit.
before going live. And it's like,
It
don't worry,
was.
it'll be good. It'll be
It
good.
was. But we're okay. We're okay. It was the I don't know what it was. sound, sound, and who knows? But I'm just still playing with stuff a little bit. So what's going on out there to our beautiful friends, Jim McHenry and Kim and Trulia and Scott, Veg is with us,
Hey.
Christopher Spavins, Rich Diana, John 2N, and Matthew Hunter, sweetheart, and JF Sebastian. Edgar Reese. We've got a full house. Phil Stone, Karen Reese, full house. And Lone Wanderer,
Wow.
Nostradamus. And of course, I'm going to put you up, Jennifer Hines. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to Environmental Coffee House. All right. What a week.
What a week.
What a
That's
week.
right.
So I suppose we're going to start out with the big news at your place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, when it's dry like it is and all of a sudden yesterday it just got really hot. I was like, "What?" Because it's been so cold around
Yep.
here. And then it got super, like in the high 70s, hottest day of the year, and then the wind was going as well. And like my table blew over and my
Oh,
umbrella
wow.
broke and all this
No
crazy
kidding.
stuff because of yeah, because of the wind. And then I went out to do a little shopping and I got to the intersection and I looked up and I'm like, "What the hell? That's a fire. That's a big fire." And in fact, yes, there was
It
another
was.
fire in the foothills right in the very same area where I hike, and it's the National Center
Oh,
for Atmospheric Research, NCAR,
wow.
right there, and that's actually, like, this beautiful building. I mean, it's like everybody's dream to work at
Is that
NCAR,
where
and it
you
was, like, right there.
did you take me
Huh?
hiking there? Is that where we went
Yeah.
hiking? Oh, yeah. We ate
I
there
can't
and we hiked there.
Oh,
Or was
no,
that a
no.
different?
That was a different place. I didn't take you to NCAR, I took you to Chautauqua,
Okay,
and
well, it
then
was
we hiked
lovely.
up behind Chautauqua, which is also very
Whatever.
nice.
Whatever we did,
Yes.
it was absolutely lovely, and I thought it was
Yes.
great. Boulder's great, and well, you're doing a trip here, but I do a trip there, and trip everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
because
Well, I'm definitely gonna come see you in for
mm,
real.
can you take a train? Electrified train? Well, that would be
We'll talk
cool, but it would
again.
take forever. Well, I don't know. I
We'll
don't even
talk
know what's
about it.
out there. I like trains. I used to take the train, Jennifer, from Buffalo, and I would take it to New York City for business.
Oh, yeah?
Sometimes when I didn't want to fly, when I was a businesswoman, and
Mhm.
you could work on the train. It could sit in the whatever the club car or whatever. You could take
Mhm.
your laptop and spread all over the table, and you could do all your work. And by the time I got down to New York, it was a 7 hour trip, but I got down to New York, and I had a lot of work done. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, very
Back
cool,
in
very cool.
those days. Back in
Yeah,
those
well,
days. Yeah.
I mean, I can make a lot of comments about the state of the train system in our poor country. It's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, "Really, guys? Can't
Mm-hmm.
even get a couple of speed trains? Everybody else has them?"
No.
So, that's a whole 'nother
No. The
topic.
richest country in the world, and we have homeless all over the
Ridiculous.
place.
It's
Yeah, there's a
ridiculous.
lot of issues, but I guess that's not
Mhm.
what we're going to get into right now. Right
Mm-mm.
now, we are going
Not right now.
to get into our articles.
Yep.
And we're going to start with the mainstream media. We are going to start with the Washington Post which is owned by the creep. But they had a good article here. And Jennifer, you want to take it away and help us out here. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But before I do that, I just want to give people an idea of where we're going tonight so they have an idea of the layout of the
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Um,
Forgot.
so the first one is an article from the Washington Post, and it's about the fire that was here yesterday and why it happened. Western heat wave sets records, fuels fire near Boulder, Colorado. So that's our first one. Then
Yep.
next up, we're going to go over to the Arctic News and talk about their latest article that just came out on March 23rd. From a Miocene like CO2 level of 420 ppm parts per million to irreversible climate change. This is from one of the
And
coolest authors in
Andrew.
the
Yep.
Arctic News, Andrew Glickson. He's
Yep.
awesome.
He is
And
awesome.
then we're going to cover an article from the Barents Observer, and it is initiation of environmental science cooperation between Norway and Russia in 1992. So you're going to talk about this, right, Sandy?
Mm-hmm. Sure
Okay.
am. Sure
Okay.
am.
And then we have one from Arctic Today. This is a continuation of what we were talking about. I think it was last week or so, about the record smashing records in Antarctica. So
Yes.
scary. Record smashing heat waves are hitting Antarctica and the Arctic simultaneously. So, this is a deep dive into what's going on in the temperature in the poles.
Deep
And then we
dive.
have our little intermission time, kind of like our party video
We have a
time.
little video for
And
you guys.
that is going to be really cool. We won't tell you what it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have something from the Anchorage Daily News. 3
Mm-hmm.
Iditarod finishers receive penalties for sheltering dogs indoors during fierce windstorms. What idiots.
Yeah. And there's the
Jesus.
show. Bye,
Uh-huh.
guys.
And then we're going to
Oh,
finish up with an article from AP News. Without Russia, science going solo on world's woes
yep.
dreams.
All
So
right.
that is it, guys. That's what we've got.
All right.
So I'm just going to cover this first one briefly, but as you know, there was a fire here yesterday. Could have been really bad. The winds were bad. Fortunately, the winds just kind of shut down after a while. But yesterday, Las Vegas was 93 degrees. Death Valley was 104, and I think it was the high 70s here in Boulder. So
Hot.
just really
Hot.
quickly, although
Hot.
it's still March, a heat wave. Sandy, you're making fun of me, aren't you, Sandy? I know you are.
I
I can
sure as
tell.
hell am not. How can I
Yes,
make
you are.
fun of you? I'm just
It
saying,
was
ha, ha, hot.
it was hot. It is hot. All
Okay,
right.
all right, all right.
All right. Although it's still March, a heat wave has brought summer like temperatures to the western United
Uh,
States,
mm,
shattering
mm,
long
mm.
standing records. The unseasonably high temperatures also helped to intensify a grass fire that erupted near Boulder, Colorado on Saturday, forcing thousands from their homes. The heat was intense enough to break records for the entire month in parts of the Southwest. Las Vegas soared to 93. Death Valley hit 104. These are both records.
Wow.
They were among dozens of heat records set in the United States on Saturday, yesterday.
Unreal.
So places that broke records were Salt Lake City, El Paso, Reno, Nevada, Clayton, New Mexico, Ponticello, Idaho, Pueblo, Colorado, and other locations. In Denver and Boulder, the temperatures just missed records but surged 20 degrees above normal into the upper 70s. This unusual warmth, combined with strong winds, fueled a grass fire that erupted near Boulder on Saturday. The blaze, known as the NCAR Fire, National Center for Atmospheric Research, one of those lovely weather government organizations is here,
Mm-hmm.
got its name for developing very close to the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NCAR, a world-renowned hub for weather and climate studies. So there's a pretty interesting picture, Sandy. Do you see it?
Yeah,
Of
I got it pulled
NCAR?
up.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of these architectural statement buildings. I
Mm.
think it was made by I.M. Pei, famous architect, made of natural
Wow.
sandstone colors. It kind of melds into the mountains there. And there's just this
Wow.
giant wildfire right behind NCAR.
Wow.
There you go. The fire forced evacuations of a large zone near the research center and even extended into the south campus of University of Colorado at Boulder.
That's
So it's actually got down to the
crazy.
university. Yeah, I was watching this thing going, "Oh no, not again, not
Oh
again."
man, I'm sure you were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it was the same situation, dry with heavy winds, but they weren't 100-mile-an-hour winds, but they were heavy. They were heavy winds. The
Oh goodness.
evacuation area included 19,000 people, 8,000 homes on Saturday evening yesterday. As the winds faded Saturday night, thank God, the blaze eased somewhat as of Saturday morning. Boulder Office of Emergency Management reported the fire had burned 189 acres and was 21% contained. So it hadn't really burned, it wasn't really a high acreage fire. It was more kind of like everybody's scared because of the last one, you
Sure.
know.
The last one,
Um,
Jennifer, was I think 50,
oh, so
was it
scary.
$55 million in damage? It
I
might even
don't
be
know.
more. It was a
It was
lot.
1,000. I don't know the number, but it was 1,000 homes, like, quickly. Like, in one afternoon, it was just boom.
Just poof.
Yeah, boom. Crews had prevented the fire from burning structures. No injuries were reported. 110 firefighters worked to contain the blaze on Sunday and focused on keeping it away from Boulder and El Dorado Springs. So there's a video here, Sandy. Do you see it? Little video. I can't hear you.
Please let me know if you guys can hear this because I changed the setting and let's see
Oh,
if you I want to know if they can. Can you guys hear this?
there's not much noise on this video anyway. It just shows, like, look at this. Look at all those hikers running out of the mountain, right? I mean, there are all these
Scary
thousands,
shit.
there's all these hikers. It was a gorgeous day.
Okay.
Everybody was up in the mountains and they were just running down the road to get the hell out of there before, you're roasted alive or something, right?
Wow.
It's kind
Wow.
of amazing. So I
All
think that's
right.
enough. That's enough of that. We got the general
Yep, we
idea.
got the gist. Okay.
Yeah.
My sound thing didn't work, so I know that if we're going to play a video it has to not be on a screen share. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
All right. So next one up, Sandy, and maybe we could even tag team this to see how you feel. It's from the Arctic News. It's this article from Andrew Glickson.
Oh,
From
yes.
Miocene, like CO2 level of 420 parts per million to irreversible climate change. This guy is a brain. I don't know if we're going to get through this whole article. We're just going to have to kind of
There's
see
a
how we do
lot here, guys.
because it's a pretty big article. Maybe we'll just read a few paragraphs, give
Okay.
people the idea.
All right.
Um, Here's the byline. As terrestrial adversaries keep pushing the Earth and its inhabitants to within seconds of a nuclear catastrophe, looming through heat waves, extreme fires, and flood events is the huge calamity of irreversible global warming. So, um, carbon dioxide reached levels well above 420 parts per million at Mauna Loa, Hawaii. Guys, remember when it was such a big deal when carbon dioxide measurements in Mauna Loa hit 400? Now we're at 420. On February 13th and 14th, 2022, as illustrated in the image from an earlier post, the image below, adapted from NOAA, shows carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases such as methane and nitrous oxide rising from 280 parts per million CO2 equivalency in 1700 to 504 CO2 equivalency in 2021. So between the year 1700 and 2021, which is 321 years, carbon dioxide almost doubled. Carbon dioxide equivalency almost
Crazy.
doubled. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this figure of
Mm.
504 parts per million carbon dioxide equivalency could be much higher when applying to a short horizon to calculate methane's global warming potential. So here it is. It's the map, it's the graph, Sandy, from 1700 to 2021. And you can see it's just gone up at a
I'm in
straight
the right
clip.
one. This is the one. Yeah.
No, the one
Oh
below
no.
it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I knew
this
I was
one.
wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just to kind of show. And I guess what's also interesting, not, obviously, if it's going up and it's exponential, the actual amount, the annual mean amount growth rate of CO2 is going to be getting bigger over time as well. So back in the 1960s, we were growing at about 1 part per million extra every year or so. Or yeah, I guess every year or so.
Yeah.
Then in 2020, we're at about 2.5 extra parts per million every year. So that's the exponential rate right there. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. CO2 equivalent, nitrous oxide,
Yeah.
greenhouse gases, just everything.
If you go down to the next one, Sandy, that
Mm-hmm.
one is the blue one there is actually kinda
Yes.
what I'm talking about, and see how those little steps are going up, right? Where
Yes.
those black lines are?
Yes.
That is how much extra CO2 additionally, because CO2 has a growth rate, and then stacked on top of that, that's the exponential function, which you see here, illustrated here, and it's also growing. So there you go.
Mm.
Um, I am not sure, Sandy. Are you really getting the vibe that we should read this? I'm not getting the
Well,
vibe
I'm
we should
thinking
read
if I
this.
go all the way down, methane is accelerating, right?
Yeah.
But if we go down to this is Andrew's piece and it's short. So I'll take it if you'd like.
Okay.
All right. So, can the current trend be arrested or even reversed? The current global greenhouse gas trend is leading to one of the largest mass extinction of species in the geological record. One of the victims of being human civilization. Yay, human civilization. Oh boy. The current focus on a reduction overlooks a major factor, and that's namely the amplifying feedbacks from land and oceans. And that was Stefan, 2018 research. There is a desperate need, in addition to emission reduction, for urgent large scale sequestration of atmospheric gases and for further action to combat temperature rise. Good luck on that. The role of amplifying greenhouse gas feedbacks from land and oceans leading to enhanced heating appears to be neglected in climate negotiations. Amplifying the feedbacks include the increase in evaporation, raising atmospheric water vapor levels while enhances the greenhouse gas effect, a decline in polar albedo, which is that reflection we all know and love, due to large scale lateral and vertical melting of the ice, the release of methane from degrading permafrost and the polar sediment, Reduce CO2 intake by warming oceans. Currently, the oceans absorb between 35 and 42% of all CO2, around 90% of the excess heat. And warming, desiccation, deforestation, and fires over land areas. Numerous species have been unable to survive the accelerated global heat following the K to T impact event, nor are there any species likely to survive the even higher rate of the Anthropocene catastrophe. A connection between climate change and human wars is evident from the accelerated global warming in the wake of the industrial scale World Wars One and Two, and now three, and subsequent industrial developments. It is possible that climate change could have been arrested in the 1960s had global efforts been directed at the time for abrupt cuts in emissions, transformation of agricultural and land practices, and effort at CO2 drawdown sequestration. By the onset of the 21st century, however, none of it, right? Hardly anything has been
Mhm.
overtaken and it could yet turn out to be too late. The repetitions of humanity's old warlike habits, investing resources in industries of death, genocidal wars, and associated with intensive carbon emissions forecasts in the fate of the earth yield little promise for a change in direction. And this is Andrew Glickson, Earth
Mm.
and Paleoclimate Scientist, University of New South Wales, Australia. Love the guy. Thank you very much, Andrew, for that little piece, just reiterating what we all know here.
Absolutely.
What
You
we know.
know, it yeah, it's a stunning article. It's got a lot of graphs in it. I think anybody who loves the graphs, it's
Yeah.
very well illustrated. This one that we didn't go through, Sandy, just right before that, that says methane rise is accelerating right on top of what you just read. It's amazing because it shows a graph just between 2017 and 2022. That's only 5 years, guys. And if you see
Jeez.
the rate of increase, do you see what I'm saying, Sandy,
Yeah,
on
I
that?
see it.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's
I see
amazing.
it.
So the rate of
Boop, boop,
increase,
boop,
this is
boop, boop.
over a 5-year period, and you can see the annual kind of behavior in methane, right? It goes kind of chink, it's got a little double-headed thing there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and boom, it's just that acceleration is what's very scary, actually.
And here we are. Here we are. Here we
Yeah.
are. And we're going to move on. And we're going to go to the Barron's Observer, our one of our favorites. But this article, Jen, I guess we could tag team too.
Mhm. Yeah,
These
absolutely.
guys are. This is the initiation of environmental science cooperation between Norway and Russia in 1992. So this actually is a bit of a go back. We're going in the way back machine, okay? And we're going to go back to tell you what happened when. We thought that was, that would be interesting to give you some history on what happened with the superpower neighbor to the east. Do you want to take it over and start?
Sure.
All right.
So this is a retrospective. Norway's relationship with its superpower neighbor to the east, aka Russia, has often been tense. In this article, Salv Dahl and co-authors give eyewitness account of the time just after the fall of the Soviet Union, when cross-border tensions began to ease. So, early on the morning of the 30th of July, 1992, I woke up in my cabin on board RV Dalny Zelensky.
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 Oh,
We're
sorry.
getting better, guys.
Uh, We had entered a narrow fjord at the south end of Novaya Zemlya during a foggy night, seeing nothing. And remember, guys, Novaya Zemlya is where they did all that nuclear testing throughout the 60s. Keen to see what nature looked like in this legendary Cold War archipelago, I peered out of my little porthole. Through the mist, my gaze fell straight into a big warship that had run aground and lay on its side, guns pointing into the sky. Along the beach, scrap metal, logs, and debris filled the rest of my view. Oh, what a garbage dump, Sandy. Look at it.
Mm,
Oh my
yes.
God.
Yeah, look at that. History from
Yeah,
the northern side for the nuclear testing. What a fucking mess. Wow.
what a mess. Jeez.
Ugh.
Looking back, it is difficult to comprehend that over several decades during the Cold War, there was almost no cooperation between Norway and the USSR. The Kirghiz border was essentially closed. The long standing and prosperous commercial and social exchanges across the border, known as Pomor trade, ended abruptly after the Bolshevik Revolution in October 1917. The only ongoing cooperation between Norway and the Soviet Union during the Cold War years was on fisheries management based on agreements from the 1950s and the 1970s. During the 1980s, rumors of environmental catastrophes in Siberia abounded in the Western press.
Oh,
In Kirkens, the people demonstrated against death clouds from the nickel smelters just across the border. And there was a great fear that pollution, oil, and radioactivity could be transported within the Siberian rivers into the Arctic Ocean and the rich fishing grounds of the Barents Sea.
yeah, these
The
were,
famous,
look at them.
the oh my God. The famous 1987 speech by Murmansk in Murmansk by General Secretary of the Communist Party Mikhail Gorbachev initiated the processes that ended the Cold War and subsequent fall of the Iron Curtain in Europe. As part of development, the countries in the Arctic took their first steps towards cooperation to gain a better understanding of the Arctic environment. In December 1991, scientists from the Arctic countries met in Tromsø to agree which contaminants should be prioritized for study and on
God.
study protocols. Now, look at this map, Sandy, of Novaya Zemlya, right? It's a kind of a long map. It's because it's
And
a long
it's hard to
and
see the
it well, because this is a
yeah.
photograph from
Yeah.
1991, right? It's like a little brochure. I don't know,
Yeah.
Novaya Zemlya testing. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Oh
But look
boy.
at these. There's 3 sizes. See these blotches, these red blotches on there,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Those are
Yes.
nuclear bombs. The one right in the center of Novaya Zemlya is Tsar Bomba, right? Remember? Do you remember about Tsar
Yes.
Bomba? That happened in,
Yes.
like,
Oh my God.
1961 or so? It was early '60s. Biggest
Testing
nuclear
and
bomb
dumping.
ever detonated. Now, I'm not saying anything, but do you remember, Sandy, that we were last year doing an article about the methane coming out of um, the limestone crop of
Yeah.
Novaya Zemlya?
Yep.
That's where the
Yep.
fucking nuclear bomb went off. I'm not saying one thing's
Yep. Boom.
okay, I'm not saying one thing's related to another, but it just so happens
It's
that the
interesting.
biggest nuclear bomb that ever went off in the history of mankind was on top of a limestone crop that is
So
gassing
sad.
out huge amounts of methane. They're probably not related. It's all in my mind.
You
But,
never
there you go.
know. If there's
You never
research out
know.
there, we'll find it.
That's right, that's
We will
right. So
find it.
that's pretty interesting. Do you wanna take it over, Sandy? The
Sure.
Tromso meeting
I'll take it
kick-started?
over. The Tromso meeting kickstarted the Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program. The AMAP eventually became one of the working groups under the Arctic Council, which was established in 1996. AMAP's ability to organized work across the Arctic was essential, and the AMAP guidelines for sampling and scientific analysis were crucial to enable comparison of results across the borders and to understand the effects of long range transported pollutants. God, what a mess.
Mm,
Unreal. I mean,
mm,
just thinking about
mm,
what was contaminated and what still could be at the bottom of these seas. On a
mm-mm.
voyage in July 1992 was the first expedition, including scientists from Western countries on a Russian vessel into Russian seas after the Second World War. To underline the importance of this endeavor, the expedition was headed by the director of the Murmansk Marine Biology Institute, MMBI, of the Russian Academy of Science, Dr. Gennady Matashov. In addition to scientists from the Akvaplan Neva, three Norwegian ornithologists, and two representatives from the oil company Amoco. Remember that, Amoco?
Mhm,
Took part
mhm.
in this complex expedition along with 15 researchers from MMBI. There they are. They might as
Mm.
well look like they were from the Endurance back in Ernest Shackleton's boat. The team mission was to study marine biodiversity and establish the level of various contaminants for concern: heavy metals, oil, hydrocarbons, and persistent organic pollutants. Our colleagues from MMBI also took samples for analysis of man made radionuclides. The expedition collected sediments along the Kola coast, across the Pechora Sea, in the fjords of Novaya Zemlya, and from deep troughs south of the archipelago. The sampling was also included sediments from dumping sites for nuclear waste. That's always lovely. The
Mm.
illegal Soviet dumping of nuclear waste in Russian waters had just been made known by the white papers published by scientist Alexei Yablokov, serving under President Boris Yeltsin. And here's some dudes doing some work. There are some science dudes, guys. All right, so what did we learn? This was the first of several joint Akvaplan Neva MMBI expeditions. During the ensuing years, Akvaplan Neva researchers and Russian colleagues traveled across the Norwegian and Russian European Arctic, visiting Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya, Svalbard, the military and commercial harbors around Murmansk and um, Arkhangelsk, and the Kara Sea, into which flow the huge rivers Orb and Yenisei. So, at many of the sites visited, it was the first time Russian and Western scientific teams collaborated, and it was wonderful. The joint work represented a major contribution to AMAP reports and documented that the concentrations of pollutants in the Russian Arctic were not any higher than in other places in the Arctic. The alarming environmental picture painted around the breakup of the Soviet Union could not be supported by our discoveries. Well, you know what? All right. There were, however, hotspots. They were connected to harbors and military facilities and at nuclear testing and dumping sites. So, as an
Mm.
example, the concentration of radioactive pollution in Guba, Chernaya, measured in 1992, was among the highest ever observed, wow, in the marine
Mhm.
environment
Oh, yeah.
worldwide.
Oh,
Holy
yeah. You
shit.
know what they do? With all those
God.
nuclear submarines, those nuclear-powered submarines, they just, like, put them out in that harbor and turn them upside down and let them rot. I mean, there is nothing, no containment, no trying to disassemble, take the nuclear stuff out. No, they just put them
God.
out there and let them
That's horrible.
rust.
That's
I know,
awful.
it's
Chernaya, measured in 1992, was among the highest ever observed in the marine environment worldwide. However, our study also showed that the high levels were to be found in the deeper parts of the fjord, which is what I thought. The concentrations south of
Mm,
the archipelago were within ranges found elsewhere in the Barents Sea. Lovely, lovely ship. A
mm.
little rusty. A little rusty. 19. Oh, goodbye. I am. I am subscribed. All right. So, reflections. The 1992 voyage over almost 4 weeks on board the RV Downey Zelensky was an adventure in many ways. We worked alongside experienced scientists, but were unfamiliar with their previous work and vice versa. So there were language problems. English speaking Russian scientists were at that time almost non existent, though several spoke German and French, and our Russian language skills, well, they were fragmentary. So, nevertheless, we made friends for life. In a
Wow.
situation like today's, with increasing tension between Russia and Western countries, this is important to remember. Friendship also motivates us to strive to continue the important cross border scientific cooperation, which, in and of itself, increases, it helps towards easing tension
Mhm.
across the borders. That was a lovely story
Mhm. That really was. That really was
because it
amazing.
just showed the camaraderie between the Russians and other countries, the Americans, that we will talk about again later. We will recap how we're losing it. It's lost.
Mm,
It's even more than last week. We're going to update this. So that was a good one. Why don't we move on
okay, okay,
and go up to this one, which I will let you take at the
okay.
Arctic today. All right.
Sounds good. So, guys, in
And
this one, we're gonna go back down to Antarctica. I think we were all shocked to hear about this giant heat wave in Antarctica that was between 70 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit higher than normal. That was the anomaly, right? Which is
mhm.
huge. It's still going on to some extent. So here we go.
All right.
Record smashing heat waves are hitting Antarctica and the Arctic simultaneously. Record breaking heat waves hit both Antarctica and the Arctic simultaneously this week, with temperatures reaching 47 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius higher than normal in the
Mm-mm-mm.
Antarctica and Arctic, both of those. So, heat waves are bizarre at any time in Antarctica, but particularly now at the equinox, as Antarctica is about to descend into winter darkness. Likewise, up north, the Arctic is just emerging from winter. Are these two heat waves linked? We don't know yet. And it's most likely a coinky dinky, oh no, coincidence. I mean, really, is it a coincidence? I
I
don't
like the
know. I think
yeah.
I I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. I mean, it seems crazy. Why should it be a coincidence? Maybe we just don't know enough yet to see how
Right.
all those links are together.
I hear you.
But we do know weather systems in Antarctica and the Arctic are connected to regions nearest them, and these connections sometimes reach all the way to the tropics. And is climate change the cause? It might be. While it's too soon to say for sure, we do know climate change is making polar heat waves more common and severe, and the poles are warming faster than the global average.
We know that.
So let's take a closer look at what's driving the extreme anomalies for each region and the flow on effects for polar wildlife like penguins and polar bears. Do you want to talk about this next part, Sandy, or do you want me to do it?
Go for it. Keep going.
Okay.
You're doing great.
What happened in Antarctica? Antarctica's heat wave was driven by a slow, intense high pressure system located southeast of Australia, which carried vast amounts of warm air and moisture deep into Antarctica's interior. It was coupled with a very intense low pressure system over the east of over the East Antarctic interior. To make matters worse, cloud cover over the Arctic ice plateau trapped heat radiating from the surface. Since it's autumn in Antarctica, temperatures in the continent's interior weren't high enough to melt glaciers at the ice cap. But that's not to say large swings in temperature didn't occur. For example, Vostok, in the middle of the ice plateau, hit a provisional high of negative 17.7 degrees C. Concordia, the Italian French research station, also on the high plateau, experienced its highest ever temperature for any month, which was about 40 degrees above the March average.
And here's
Wow.
the same one we saw last week, I guess.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've been thinking about what,
Mhm.
Jim said because he had asked a question, and he's like,
Mhm.
"How come it's so hot right there?" And I didn't have a good answer. I was a little bit kind of flip about it, but,
Mhm.
um, I don't know. Why is the heat really concentrated on that eastern plateau? Maybe everything is pushing that heat there. I don't know. I really don't, but it's amazing to look at this and to
Unreal.
know that it is so anomalously hot in eastern Antarctica, which we
Has it
always
cooled
thought was.
has it cooled since this time? We'd
I
have to
think it's still going
yeah.
on. No, this is
Oh
March
my god.
18th. So no, this is 10 days ago. Okay. So this is 10 days ago, March 18th, but still very interesting, right?
Yeah. Yep. All right.
The story is very different on the coast as rain fell, which isn't really common for the continent. The rain was driven primarily by an atmospheric river, and we looked at that last week. A narrow
Mhm.
band of moisture collected from warm oceans. Atmospheric rivers are found on the edge of low pressure systems and can move large amounts of water across vast distances at scales greater than continents. Despite their rarity, atmospheric rivers make an important contribution to the continent's ice sheets as they dump relatively large amounts of snow. When the surface temperature rises above freezing, rain rather than snow falls over Antarctica. Last Monday, March 14th, air temperature at the Australian Casey station reached a maximum of negative 1.9 degrees C. 2 days later, they were more like midsummer temperatures, reaching a new March maximum of 5.6 degrees C, which will melt ice. This is the second heat wave at Casey Station in 2 years. In February 2020, Casey hit 9.2 degrees C, followed by a shocking high of 18.3 degrees C
Oh
on the
boy.
Antarctic Peninsula. So,
Wow.
what does this mean for wildlife? Adele penguins, which live across the entire Antarctic coastline, have recently finished their summer breeding. But thankfully, the Adele penguin chicks had already left for the sea to start hunting for food on their own, so the heat wave did not impact them. The rain may have affected the local plant life, such as mosses, especially as they were in their annual phase of drying out for the winter. but we won't
Wow.
know if there are any damage to plants next summer when we can visit the moss beds again. Do you want to
Wow.
take it, Sandy? What about the
Sure.
Arctic?
Okay. What about the Arctic? A similar weather pattern occurred last week in the Arctic. An intense low pressure system began forming off the northeast coast of the United States. An atmospheric river formed at its junction with an adjacent high pressure system. The weather pattern funneled warm air into the Arctic Circle. Svalbard and Norway recorded a new maximum temperature of 3.9 degrees C. U.S. researchers called the low pressure system a bomb cyclone because it formed so well. We've definitely
Mhm.
talked about that before. It's so
Mhm.
rapidly undergoing the delightfully termed bombogenesis. Yeah, that
Mm.
I don't know. Do we have a sound for bombogenesis? I don't know. I don't know. That's a wild thing.
Wow.
Look at that.
Look at this. Look at this temperature anomaly map. You can see it's smack in the middle of like the Kara Sea, right? This
With the
whole big
17th.
temp. And
Yeah.
can you see this? It's like a heart. Do you see that heart right in the
Oh
center, the pink heart?
boy,
Do you
it's
see that?
beating of death. Oops, sorry.
It is.
Sounds
And
terrible.
the bottom of the heart is at Franz Josef Land. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is over in the Kara and the Elaptive Sea. That is
Yep.
so amazing. The more
Now,
I look at it, right?
I just want to
So
tell you
interesting.
that um, Dwayne, Dwayne said it's back to normal according to the climate reanalyzer. So that's thank you very much, Dwayne. He looked it up and he said it was back to normal.
Thank you,
So
Dwayne.
it went fast, but it happened, and it
Yeah.
still happened. So winter sea ice conditions this year were already very low, and on land was there was recent record-breaking rain across Greenland, which we've talked about this year, and I made a video with Jim Massa narrating it. If the warm conditions cause sea ice to break up earlier than normal, it could have dire impacts for many animals. For example, sea ice is a crucial habitat for polar bears, enabling them to hunt seals and travel long distances. Many people live in the Arctic, including the Arctic indigenous people, and we know losing sea disrupts subsistence hunting and cultural practices. What's more, that bomb cyclone weather system brought chaotic weather to many populated areas of the northern hemisphere. In northern Norway, for instance, flowers began blooming early due to 3 weeks of abnormally warm weather. So, what's this harbinger for the future? Modeling suggests large scale climate patterns are more variable. This means this seemingly one off heat wave may be a harbinger for the future under climate change. In particular, the Arctic has been warming twice as fast. Now, everybody, this says twice as
Mhm.
fast. Some people say more than that. We'll just take it for what it says here. This is because melting sea ice reveals more ocean beneath, and ocean absorbs more heat as it's darker. In fact, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change projects Arctic sea ice to continue its current threat with ice-free summers possibly by the 2050s. So Antarctica's future looks similarly concerning. The IPCC finds global warming between 2 degrees C and 3 degrees C this century would see the West Antarctic ice sheet almost completely lost. And definitely, Jennifer, another piece of the Antarctic ice sheet fell off, and it starts with a C. I don't have the name of it in my head, but it fell off because of this. And so, bringing global emissions to net zero as fast as possible will help avoid the worst, but I don't know. So now, guys, we have a video to show you, and I am gonna get it set up. All right, it is very interesting. It goes with what we just read, and it is well, wait and see. He does talk about some of the same stuff that we do, that we just did. But here you go.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about the Arctic and Antarctica and the weather and what we're doing. There has been some wild weather occurring at the poles. It's been overshadowed because of all of the other news. But in Antarctica, it's 40 degrees above average. 40 degrees. For Americans, it's 75-ish, somewhere in there, degrees above average. The Arctic is 30 degrees above average, or 50-ish above average. It's substantial. It's a big deal. The other thing that's really important to understand about this bizarre weather is that they're different seasons. They're on opposite ends, and they should be doing different things. They both shouldn't be warm right now. The Arctic should be just now slowly coming out of winter, and Antarctica should be kind of quickly cooling after summer. But they're both warm. You have melting in both places. It is unprecedented. You know, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but there's no precedent for it. It's the right word here. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, you know, it talks about a whole bunch of different things that become thresholds. And one of the problems is that as you cross each threshold, as each thing happens, some things are irreversible, but more importantly, it snowballs, for lack of a better term, and it accelerates. This is a sign that there's an issue, a huge one, as if we needed more. All of the extreme weather that we've been having, it's all related to this. Now, it is worth noting that there are a couple of people who are really well versed in this field who are not climate change deniers, who are saying this may just be a truly freak occurrence, but we have to watch it, because if it happens again, it's a really bad sign. So this is something that we need to pay attention to. But aside from just paying attention to it, when are we going to make the switch? How long are we going to continue to use old, outdated tech and that's causing problems? I can't think of a better time than right now to really make this push and sell it to the American people and to the world. The reliance on old technology, stuff that burns, right? It's a foreign policy issue. It's a defense issue. It's an economic issue. It's an environmental issue. And it's all coming together right now. This is the time for that bold moment, for somebody to step out and really sell it. Get out there and make the case that this has to happen, and it has to happen now. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. I don't know who in American politics has the ability to make that case, because whoever it is, it's somebody that, it's got to be somebody who can appeal to the Republican side of the aisle. You know, you have a lot of young, energetic people in the Democratic Party who can talk about this and talk about it from an informed place, and they can make the case. The problem is, because the U.S. has become so polarized, the people that need convincing, they won't listen to them. We're looking for somebody in the Republican Party who can make this case, or somebody new to politics who happens to run as a Republican that may have other ideas. That may work too, and it may be necessary at some point. Just saying. Because this is one of those things we can't lose. Messing up here, getting this wrong, that's it. There is no do-over on this. And when you start reading these studies, even the optimistic ones say that we're going to experience impacts from it. We're going to have problems already. Even if we start fixing everything now, we will still have issues. We will still have to deal with the effects of being bad stewards of the world, of putting off a change that we knew we had to make. This, to me, given the current geopolitical situation, seems like the ideal time for somebody to make the case. When the average person is aware of some of these problems, they see how it's impacting the world. Because if you wait and you don't make the case now, we don't talk about it now, the American people have a pretty short attention span. We have to make the case, and we got to do it soon. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
We're all muted.
No, you're not.
No, they couldn't hear us. I muted us both. It's okay.
Oh.
He's really great. And what I said was, he appeals to. Couldn't you read my lips, guys? Look, you can't read these lips by now with all the mistakes I make with this. Anyway, he appeals to a sensible crowd, but the problem is that it's hard to appeal to the extreme people on the other side. I mean, you think he's going to appeal to QAnon, which was never a thing between whatever. Well, anyway, yes. So where are we going? Are we going to
Where
the dog
we
barking?
where we are going is we're going to the Iditarod.
Yeah. All right. We are going to the Iditarod. Here we go. All right, Jen.
Oh, yeah?
You want to take off? Or you want me to take off?
Okay. 3 Iditarod finishers receive penalties for sheltering dogs indoors during fierce windstorms. The 2 top finishing women in the Iditarod Trail sled dog race were penalized during the race for sheltering their dogs inside a cabin during a ferocious windstorm. A move
Unreal.
they say likely saved their dogs' lives, but caused their demotions in the final standings. The penalties levied against veterans Millie Porsild of Denmark and Yukon musher Michelle Phillips were not widely publicized nor explained by race officials. That, in turn, has caused confusion and consternation, generating plenty of online criticism that a move ensuring dog safety diminished their accomplishments and earnings from the race purse. In the final accounting, Porcild's finishing position went from 14th to 17th, and Phillips moved from 17th to 18th. Those demotions equated to $3,450 less in prize money for Porcild and $1,000 less for Phillips. According to race marshal Mark Nordman, who made the decision, the indoor rest constituted a competitive advantage over the three teams that trailed Porceld and Phillips into Nome. Quote, no doubt that Michelle and Millie did the right thing for their dogs, said Nordman, but it also affected the competition for racers going forward. These three of the four mushers who filed formal complaints alleging that Porceld and Phillips violated a race rule ultimately benefited from the adjustment. What a bunch of idiots. In a separate incident, musher Riley Deich of Fairbanks also brought his team indoors during harsh weather, a violation of race rules, and later failed to adequately inform organizers. He faced no change in his finishing position, but must pay a fine of $1,000.
Why don't they just let everybody bring their dogs in? That's harsh. So the dogs are
It's
supposed
really
to stay
harsh.
outside without shelter, because I know these guys are not bringing
Yeah.
all their dog shelters with them.
Yeah.
But we're not, we're
Yeah.
not mushers. We don't know the rules.
Yeah. Sandy, this is a really long article.
All right. Well, we don't
P.S.
have to go for the whole thing. We're just going to tell you.
It's interesting.
It happened.
It happened. Yeah, they got
Here's the
penalized
race.
for taking care of their dogs. That's an interesting thing.
So-
From Nome to Willow, is that
yeah.
it?
No.
From Nome, Alaska to
Yep.
Willow.
Yep.
That's the route
And-
of the Iditarod. How
Uh-huh.
long is it? Do you know how long is it?
I don't know. Jim Massa used to do sled dogs.
Or does it go from Willow to Nome? Which way does it go?
Okay, guys, help us out. Let's see if it says it. It just said conditions were getting worse, and there's one of the windswept people, and she brought her animals in. She didn't realize she was violating it, and some mushers, I guess the mushers and the purity test mushers and race observers said it was in conflict. So that could lead to the death of the dogs. And that I'm all for bringing them in. I don't like that. And I know the dogs like the cold weather, but I don't know. I'm rethinking this. So this is a long one, but if you guys want to, it'll be in the show notes, all about the what happened here with the Iditarod, and 24 hours and 32 dogs. And the wind was blowing 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just want to read what Musher Phillips said. With no natural wind breaks or materials available to shelter them, I made what I felt was the best choice for my dog's welfare in that extreme situation. I unhooked my dogs and put them in the shelter where they could rest and recover, safe from the hostile conditions outside. The wind continued to howl and shake the building all night. And for this, she was penalized.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is, because it does go on. It just has. We'll look at this. We'll look at the pictures. How about we just look at the pictures? The dog mushing pictures. I think there's even a video. I don't know. Let's see. Does it actually play as a video? I don't know. Nice pictures though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a video.
I think it's a picture of it. A picture of it.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in reading the rest of this, we're going to move on because we're already an hour. And I guess this is making me want to think about looking at the Iditarod and dog mushers and make sure they're taking care of their dogs, since we really are into animal rights. And, that's kind of a new one for us. So, and this article is just recapping last week's discussion of how basically we can't do any research with Russian scientists. It just gave an update. I don't know what you want to do with this one, Jen, um,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I mean, it did go a little bit deeper into what we, were talking about last week. And they're saying here, AP, scientific fields with profound implications for mankind's future
Wow.
and knowledge. So you
Wow.
fucked it up, people. You fucked it up. And now we can't do our research with our wonderful Russian scientists together with them because of this stupid war. And it is a stupid war. And I said it
Yes.
last week. Wars are stupid. They're
Yes.
horrible. We hate them. So what do you want to do with this? Should we go
Well, we
down a
could
little bit?
yeah, we could read it.
All right.
I could get started.
All
Without
right.
Russia, science going solo on world's woes dreams.
All right.
Without Russian help, climate scientists worry how they'll keep up their important work of documenting warming in the Arctic. Europe's space agency is wrestling with how its planned Mars rover might survive freezing nights on the red planet without its Russian heating unit. And what if the world's quest for carbon free energy, if 35 nations cooperating on an experiment fusion power reactor in France can't ship vital components from Russia? In scientific fields with profound implications for mankind's future and knowledge, Russian President Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine is causing a swift and broad decaying of relationships and projects that bound together Moscow and the West. Post Cold War bridges buildings through science is unraveling as Western nations seek to punish and isolate the Kremlin by drying up support for the scientific programs involving Russia. The costs of this decoupling, scientists say, could be high on both sides. Tackling climate change and other problems will be tougher without collaboration, and time will be lost. Russian and Western scientists have become dependent on each other's expertise as they have worked together on conundrums from unlocking the power of atoms to firing probes into space. Picking apart the dense web of relationships will be complicated. The European Space Agency planned Mars rover with Russia is an example. Arrays of Russian sensors to sniff, scour, and study the planet's environment may have been unbolted and may have to be unbolted and replaced, and non Russian launcher rocket found if the suspension of their collaboration becomes a lasting rupture. In that case, the launch, already scrubbed for the year, couldn't happen before 2026. Quote, we need to untangle all this cooperation, which we had. And it is a very complex process, a painful one, I can also tell you, said the ESA director Josef Assenbacher in an Associated Press interview. Quote, dependency on each other, of course, creates stability and to a certain extent, trust. And this is something that we will lose, and we have lost now through the invasion of Russia in Ukraine. End quote. International indignation and sanctions on Russia are making formal collaborations difficult or impossible. Scientists who became friends are staying in touch informally, but plugs are being pulled on their projects, big and small. The European Union is freezing Russian entities out of its main 95 billion euro fund for research,
Yeah, big
suspending
stuff.
payments and saying they'll get no new contracts. In Germany, Britain, and elsewhere, funding and support is also being withdrawn for projects involving Russia. In the United States, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology severed ties with a research university it helped establish in Moscow. The oldest and largest university in Estonia won't accept new students from Russia and ally Belarus. The president of the Estonian Academy of Sciences, Teemo Sumer, says breaking of scientific connections is necessary, but will also hurt. Quote, we are in danger of losing much in the momentum that drives our world towards better solutions, a better future, he told AP. Quote, globally, we are in danger of losing core points of science, which is obtaining new and essential information and communicating it to others. End quote. Russian scientists are bracing for painful isolation. An online petition by Russian scientists and scientific workers opposed to the war says it now has more than 8,000 signatories. They warned that by invading Ukraine, Russia has turned itself into a pariah state, which means we can't normally do our work as scientists because conducting research is impossible without full fledged cooperation with foreign colleagues. The growing estrangement is being pushed by Russian authorities too. An order from Science Ministry suggests that scientists are no longer need bother getting research published in scientific journals, saying they'll no longer be used as benchmarks for the quality of their work. Lev Zeleny, a leading physicist at the Space Research Institute in Moscow, who was involved in the now suspended collaboration on the ExoMars rover, described the situation as tragic and said by email to AP that he and other Russian scientists must now learn to live and work in this new non enabling environment. They're probably so sad. God. On some major collaborations, the future isn't clear. Work continues on the 35 nation ITER fusion energy project in southern France, with Russia still among the 7 founders sharing costs and results of the experiment. ITER spokesman Laban Koblenz said the project remains a deliberate attempt by countries with different ideologies to physically build something together. Among the essential components being supplied by Russia is a massive superconducting magnet awaiting testing in St. Petersburg before shipment, due in several years. Researchers hunting for elusive dark matter hope they'll not lose more than 1,000 Russian scientists contributing to experiments at the European Nuclear Research Organization, CERN. Joachim Minch, the director for research and computing, said punishment should be reserved for the Russian government, not Russian colleagues. CERN has already suspended Russia's observer status at the organization, but, quote, we are not sending anyone home, Minch told AP. In other fields as well, scientists say Russian expertise will be missed. Adrian Muxworthy, a professor at London's Imperial College, says his research of Earth's magnetic field, Russian made instruments can do types of measurements that the other commercial instruments made in the West can't do. Muxworthy is no longer expecting delivery from Russia of 250 million year old Siberian rocks that he had planned to study. In Germany, atmospheric scientist Marcus Rex said the year long international mission he led into the Arctic in 2019 and 2020 would have been impossible without the powerful Russian ships that burst through the ice to keep their research vessels supplied with food, fuel, and other essentials. The Ukraine invasion is stopping this very close collaboration, as well as future joint efforts to study the impact of climate change, he told AP. Quote, it will hurt science. We are going to lose things, Rex said. Quote, just lay a map and look at the Arctic. It is extremely difficult to do meaningful research in the Arctic if you ignore that big thing there that is Russia. It is really a nightmare because the Arctic is changing rapidly. It won't wait for us to solve all of our political conflicts or ambitions. just conquer other countries. And that's it, Sandy.
Well, my thoughts on this whole mess. The environmental coffee house flush of the day, we're going to flush that away. We want our science. We don't want this to be happening. And neither do the Russian scientists, nor the United States scientists, nor the European scientists. And I don't know about the Chinese scientists, but I'm sure they don't want this either because they
Mhm.
all work together. All of them, all over the world.
Yeah,
Sad.
absolutely. It is
But
sad. It is sad.
oh, hi, Teresa. We have somebody that's finally able to join us. Hi, finally able to join you for the first live stream. That's
Hi,
awesome.
Teresa.
Yay. Thank you, Teresa, for coming. This is nice. Thank you. It's great to see you. So let's see if we have any comments. Edgar Reese had a question. What's happening to the southern jet stream? It had been intensifying, unlike the northern one. Has it broken down to allow the intrusion? Good question.
Well, I mean, I think that this big heat wave that we've been having in Antarctica the last couple of weeks, where the temperatures got 90 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. I mean, we've all seen how the southern jet stream and the northern jet stream are breaking down and getting closer to the tropics and crossing over the equator. And it is elongating in both directions. And so I think just the mere fact that we had this giant heat wave, an atmospheric river that went pretty much all the way to the South Pole and then just like lodged all this heat there. I think that's evidence right there that the southern jet stream is breaking down.
All right. And Gary Hoover, I lost it. Oh, it was a good one. He wanted, I'm never going to find it. He wanted you or me to describe the difference between mush and permamush in 250 words. Which, Gary, you have a good sense of humor. I clicked it off, but that was what he wanted. He wanted us to the difference between mush and permamush, right, Gary? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So,
All
anybody
right.
else have any questions? They're chatting away in the chat. We've got 77 people with us. 80, well, I don't know how many people. I can't tell the numbers. It doesn't matter. We've got Facebook and we've got YouTube. Jen?
Yeah, it's been another fascinating show. I love concentrating on both polar regions. They're interrelated, they do affect each other. And it's very interesting to watch them week by week.
Yeah, it is. And I do like the way, I do like doing the Arctic show because I really do like exactly what you just said. The small changes, but they really mean something and I don't know who else is putting them together like this. I really don't think anybody else is, Jen. It's fascinating stuff. So, guys, we have been an hour and 19 minutes. We just seem to not be able to ever stay within an hour, and that's okay. I'm happy. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. Jean said, she said, Sandy and Jennifer, really good articles today. And thank you, thank you. And
Thank you, Jean.
Poppy, thank you, Sandy and Jen. So I guess we'll be saying goodbye for today until next Sunday. I will be back Wednesday morning. Last Friday night, sorry, I had a medical procedure, couldn't do the show, so hopefully we'll get back on schedule because I have guests. I have lineup. And I'm not telling anybody right now, but I do have interesting guests lined up and it's going to be fun. Jennifer, I love you
I
so
love you
much.
too.
So
I'm
much.
so happy we can gather here every week and talk about these really important and interesting issues.
Thank you. All right, guys. Peace out. Till next week.
Bye, guys.